What's up, Gear Immortals? Trey Xavier here. Today I want to show you what I think is currently the coolest compact modeling rig with power on the market today. We've got two elements involved in this. Basically, I love simple, compact anything, okay? I'm really into modeling amps, and we're gonna take a look at the Ampli-Firebox from Atomic Amps. And we're sending that into the super compact Powerstage 170 from Seymour Duncan. And then we're going into, of course, a giant ass Paul Reed Smith cab. But you could plug this into any cab, any size. You plug it into your 1x12, plug it into a 2x12, whatever it takes, whatever you got. And especially if you're like on tour, maybe you're sharing cabs with another band, or you're just using house cabs, you could do that. Or you can go direct from the Ampli-Firebox. It has an XLR out with a cab loader in it. So you could have super clean send to front of house and for in-ear monitors, as well as going out to a cab with power. It's pretty cool. So you may have seen we just did a review of the Seymour Duncan Powerstage 170 and 700. The 700 is like a rack mountable, stereo, much more powerful amp, but we determined that the level of volume output that you can achieve with either one of them is definitely more than you would ever possibly need for just about any gig. So with that in mind, I put together what I consider to be, at this moment, probably the most compact, complete powered modeling rig from the Ampli-Firebox and the Powerstage 170. And I like this because that's all you need going into your cab and to front of house simultaneously. That's your whole sound because it has not just amp modeling, but it's also got effects. It has compression, overdrive, reverb, delay, and just about everything you need for simpler kinds of sounds. You can put it in a preset mode, which gives you two different presets in one foot switch on the fly. And then there's a boost button as well that you can use to turn multiple effects on and off with one foot switch. So it's kind of like having 3 to 4 channels, sort of. 3 to 4 different sounds, but 2 that you can access on the fly with one button. So that's really damn impressive. I'm going to demonstrate it for you right now. If you have extremely complicated needs as a guitar player, this kind of a setup is not for you because you basically have instant access to between 2 and 4 sounds, and really it's basically 2. So I don't really use a ton of clean sounds. I could get away with using just this on stage for like 90% of our set. The 2 sounds that I've got going here that most metal guitar players are gonna need, maybe you even need less than this. It's possible you only use 1 sound, in which case this is gonna be great for you. I've got it set up to do 2 different sounds. One of them is super dry, real crunchy, basically a boosted 5150 type of sound. It's heavily gated. I've got like a tube screamer in front of it, boosting the crap out of it. It's not a really super high gain, but it has a lot of gain built in, and that's about it. The second sound I've got in there is like a really hot, high gain lead tone with lots of ambience, much less heavily gated, a bit louder, significantly louder I would say than the rhythm tone. For when it's time to take a solo, you step on it, boom, you're already louder than the other guy, hopefully. And it's got delay and a little bit of reverb in there. It's got an EQ boosting it at around 2K, I think. Really make it scream. And it sounds really great for a hot screaming lead. Currently I'm using like their modified JCM 800 sound. That's basically like a Marshall JCM 800 with just more gain. And it's also got an overdrive on there with the tone down just a little bit to smooth it out. Because I am an incredibly lazy man, I'm always looking for the most compact rig that I could possibly take with me to rehearsals and performances. And so far, this is it. I think it's really super simple, incredibly light. I mean, I could basically pick it up with one hand, and I could probably pick it up with one finger. I'm not gonna try right now. But anything like this is going to just make any guitarist's life a whole lot easier. If nothing else, it's an incredible backup rig. You can use just the Ampli-Firebox. You could put it in your gig bag, and if your main rig goes down, you can just plug in straight to front of house and get through the show, keep you from having to cancel the whole gig just because you blow a tube or whatever. Definitely pretty high on my list of must-haves for guitarists in 2017 and 2018. It's gonna make your life just that much easier. It's reasonably cheap. We're looking at about a total of $700 brand new for this, not including the pedal board. So that's not incredibly cheap, but considering that an entire amp head is gonna run you a lot more than that and doesn't have any effects built in, or if you're buying yourself a typical modeling rig like a rack mount thing, it's gonna cost a lot more than that, and it's not powered generally. So this is a lot of stuff to take into consideration, but this could easily be a great compact rig for the touring guitarist, or just plugging into like a little 1x12 for your home practice rig, whatever you need it for. I think it's pretty cool. One of the limitations of this, the Ampli-Firebox does not have a tuner in it. So I've currently got a Polytune Clip Noir going on from TC Electronic. You might just want to get yourself a real compact tuner to add to this. I don't have that on here right now, but those are two possible solutions to that slight drawback. So now I'm gonna give you a real quick overview of how the Ampli-Firebox works just by itself. The included Ampli-Firebox editor software, which is really super simple, and just a couple of the sounds that you can get out of it. So here we have the Ampli-Firebox editor. It's just dead simple. It looks exactly like the face of the Ampli-Firebox, but with a lot more in-depth kind of editing. So you can do a bunch of stuff just right on the face of this thing. Like if you get to the gig and the gain is up too high, you can just turn it right down and you're good to go. Now, here we've got the whole effects chain laid out in front of us. Gate, compressor, boost, the actual amp, an EQ, echo, or it says echo, but that's echo, it's a delay. I would have put DLY, but that's just me. Reverb, and then the cab. Right now you can see anything that's lit up in color is on, and then anything grayed out is off. The gate, extremely flexible. You can set it to a very fast attack and a pretty quick release if you're doing like a super tight rhythm sound like I've got going on right now. Set up the threshold and the ratio, however you like. Compressor, you've got a pedal style compressor or a studio compressor. I don't have that on at the moment. Some of my patches do. Boost, you've got a bunch of options for boost. Screamer, like a tube screamer, that's what I'm using right now. Overdrive, distortion, fuzz, or a clean boost. So of course these are sort of basic effect types, but that covers pretty much anything, every style you can imagine. We've got 17 different built-in amp types, and then 4 just power amp styles if you want to use this just for power amp modeling. So if you've got a separate preamp that you like a lot, doesn't have any power amp modeling built in, you can use this just to simulate EL34, 6L6, EL84, or KT88 power amp. And power amp simulation is incredibly important to the sound of your guitar. The amp sounds that you heard me using earlier were this 5051, which is of course a 5150 sound, and then the Hot Brit, which is like a super high gain JCM 800, I think. Sounded pretty sweet. The EQ, not incredibly easy to use. It's not like a simple graphic EQ, but it is pretty powerful. Takes a little while to dial it in, but once you get it doing what you want it to do, I mean, look at all these different types of EQs that you can have. Gives you an incredible amount of control over the tone. Now, for the delay, 5 different types: digital, analog, basic, tape delay, a dark tape delay, and soft digital. Not actually sure what that is. So originally, the Ampli-Firebox shipped with only reverb. There was no delay. But just in this last couple of firmware updates, they added delay. And first I was under the impression that it was going to be either reverb or delay, but what happened is they just added delay. So you can just have both. So for my lead tone, I have both reverb and delay on there, and it sounds really great. Once again, 5 different types: small hall, medium hall, large hall, and 2 different kinds of spring reverb, in case you are into some twangy country sounds. Lastly, we come to the cabinet section. You can load your own cab IRs. You can see I've currently got the Atlantic Custom for my rhythm tone from Rosen Digital. Really like that one a lot. Couple knobs here to further tweak the sound. Roll off, that's high roll off, some peaking, bottom and air controls in case it's too dull or it's too bottom heavy, whatever. If you use the stock amp sounds in here, it automatically pulls up one of the stock cabinets inside the Ampli-Firebox as well. So if you don't have your own cab sounds, don't worry about it. There are some that come with it. I'm gonna demonstrate for you some of the other sounds that I used. So here's like a slightly overdriven 59 B-Man, which is of course a Bassman amp from Fender. So it sounds really good for even low gain type of stuff. Let's see what else I got here. Same sound, a little more overdrive. Let's take that same sound through a couple of these other amp models. So now on this patch, I have everything on: gate, compressor, boost, amp, EQ, delay, reverb, and cab, all on, and it seems to be humming along no problem. So here's the Plexi with pretty good amount of gain on it. Here's the Brit 800. Here's the Hot Brit. Gain knob is at the same level as the last 2. Definitely a lot gainier. Here's the Deluxe. We already heard the 59 B-Man, so we're gonna go to the US Clean, which I think is probably like a Fender or maybe a Mesa Boogie Clean sound. Here's Top Boost, which is of course an AC30 type of sound. This one's called Rumble. Here's the Mark IV lead, which is of course like a Mesa Boogie Mark IV. Here's Mark IV EQ, which is I guess an EQ'd version of the Mark IV sound. Here's Rumble Bright, which of course it sounds like a cartoon character, but it's probably just a bright sounding Dumble. Here's the Friedman BE, which is of course a Friedman, just spelled wrong. Here's the Friedman HBE, which is just the Hairy Brown Eye, which is a slightly higher gain version, maybe slightly different sounding. Here's the Cornfield, which is, of course, a Cornford style. Here's a Recto. I'll leave it up to you to guess what that one is. Here's the 5051. Here's the SLO, which is of course a Soldano style. And then there are the 4 power amp options, so obviously we're not going to use those. So you can run the Ampli-Firebox in 2 different modes. There's channel switching mode and then preset mode, which is the one that I like the most, because then you can just switch back and forth between 2 complete signal chain presets, which is the most useful for me for a live type of situation. You can use the boost. It's sort of not mislabeled, but if you're using it in preset mode, the boost button actually turns several effects on and off, which you decide beforehand using the foot switches menu right here in the Ampli-Firebox editor, and you can decide which ones go on and off when you hit the foot switch, so that's pretty handy. Over here, we've got the cab 1/4" switch. There's also a physical one on the face of the Firebox, and then you can use that to send just the cabbed sound out, the XLR out, so you can send that direct to front of house or for in-ear monitoring when you're playing live, or you can have it go out the 1/4" for the same reason. Now, why that's important is because you can have the 1/4" sound go out with no cab on it, going out to a physical speaker cab, and then you can have this going out to front of house instead of miking up that speaker cab, and you get the direct, pure sound of just the Firebox. So all in all, an incredibly handy, super compact, full-featured amplifier modeler with lots of effects for the size that we're looking at here. I think the sounds in it are really great. It took me a little tiny bit of tweaking to get them where I wanted them to be, but after that, sounds better than a lot of modelers on the market. Maybe not up there with like a full-on fractal axe effects that has like 10 times the processing power. But considering that it's $300 and it's about the size of a pedal that goes on your pedal board anyways and replaces pretty much everything on your pedal board, I think it's incredible. If your amplifier needs are really simple on stage and you don't use more than 2 patches for your entire set, then leave the axe effects at home and get yourself an Atomic Ampli-Firebox and save so much trouble in your life. And just get this and set it up for those 2 patches and you're done. That's it. If you use physical guitar cabs on stage, just pair this up with some kind of a power amp like the Powerstage 170 that I used today. There are other companies that make ones. For instance, Quilter makes something called the Micro Block that's 45 watts. Electro-Harmonix has something called the 44 Magnum, I think, that's 44 watts. Those are a little bit smaller and less powerful, but they will still drive a 4x12 cab. And then your whole rig is like this big, and you're good to go. Really cool for somebody as lazy as myself, or just conscientious of not having a ton of gear on stage and simplifying the setup of that gear. Something like this is a godsend as far as I'm concerned. Put it all together and you have a super compact, pretty reasonably priced modeling rig that you can take with you anywhere in the world. Super simple. All right guys, thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button for more reviews and original content, and I'll see you real soon.